The derelict Discovery, the stellar graveyard, existed at the edge of mapped space where stars went to die and radiation storms tore ships apart without mercy. Commander Zashara of the Zor Collective stood at the observation deck of the research vessel Seeker's Path, her crystalline skin reflecting the distant glow of dying stars. For 3 months, her team had searched these dead regions for anything that might help their people survive. The Dominion Empire was expanding, consuming world after world, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. The Zor were desperate, running out of time and running out of hope. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Dr. Fenix, the lead archaeologist, his voice trembling with barely contained excitement. Zashara turned from the viewport and made her way to the sensor station. What she saw on the display made her breath catch in her throat. A massive signature, hidden behind 3 layers of stellar dust and debris fields. It had taken their advanced scanning equipment weeks to detect it, because whoever had placed it there had wanted it hidden. Truly hidden, from everything. "What are we looking at?" Zashara asked, though something deep in her ancient Xor intuition was already telling her this was significant. "I've never seen anything like it," Fenix admitted, his multiple eyes focusing intently on the readings. "The size alone, it would dwarf our largest battlecruisers by a factor of 50, but that's not what's remarkable. The composition of the hull material is unlike anything in our databases. Our analysis suggests it's over 4,000 years old, possibly much older. And, Commander, the design aesthetic matches the descriptions from the lost histories." Zashara felt her antennae flatten against her head in shock. The lost histories. Ancient records that spoke of a vanished civilization that had once guided the galaxy toward peace. Humanity. The legends said they had been brilliant, kind, and impossibly advanced. They had disappeared mysteriously, and without their guidance, the galaxy had slowly descended into chaos and warfare. "Humans?" she whispered. "That's impossible." "I'm reading faint energy signatures from within the hull," Fenix continued, seemingly not hearing her. "Very faint, dormant mostly, but there's something active in the core. Something trying to conserve power. Commander, I think the ship is still alive." The exploration team suited up within the hour. Zashara insisted on leading the first expedition herself. She had trained for this role her entire life, leading the Zor Collective's deep space missions, but nothing had prepared her for this. As their shuttle approached the massive vessel, details began to resolve. The ship was not just large, it was architecturally impossible by modern standards, sweeping curves that seemed to defy physics, weapons emplacements that could have been designed to defend against threats the galaxy had never even considered, hull plating that seemed almost organic in its structure, woven together rather than welded. "My instruments are going crazy," reported Pilot Stex, a young Veil navigator with skin that shifted colors with his emotions. Right now he was a deep purple, the color of profound awe. "The whole thing is one integrated system. The hull is both armor and sensor array. The structure itself is a weapon system. I've never seen anything so elegant." The docking procedure was surprisingly easy, as if the ancient ship had been waiting for them. Its docking bay doors simply opened, lights flickering on in sequence to guide them in. The air inside was breathable, the gravity stable. Whoever built this vessel had been masters of environmental control. They found the bridge through a series of corridors that seemed to anticipate their needs, opening doors before they arrived, lighting their path. It was as if the ship recognized them somehow. The bridge chamber was enormous, multiple levels of observation decks arranged around a central command platform. And there, in that central platform, was something that made Zashara's entire body go rigid. A pod of some kind, enclosed in a transparent material that seemed to shimmer with stored energy. Inside the pod was a figure, humanoid, bipedal, with smooth, fair skin and dark hair tied back in a practical style. Definitely human, and definitely sleeping, recording everything, Fenix whispered, his voice full of reverence. "The technology in this chamber alone would take our scientists decades to understand." "Captain, something's happening," called out Stex from one of the control stations. His color had shifted to an alarmed orange-red. "Power readings are increasing. I think we woke something up." The pod began to glow brighter. Lights across the bridge blazed to life, and the ship hummed with a sound so deep it vibrated through their bones. Then a voice spoke, ancient and measured, with an accent that no living species recognized. "Sensors detect external biological signatures. Classification, crystalline sentience, veil shifters, others. Recognition protocols engaging. Language translation matrices activating. Greetings. I am Memoria, primary artificial intelligence of the TCS Valiant, flagship of the Terran fleet. Please state your designation and purpose. Zashara stepped forward, her scientific training overriding her shock. I am Commander Zashara of the Zor Collective. We are explorers and researchers. We found your vessel and came to investigate. Your ship has been dormant for thousands of years. Affirmative. Last recorded date was Earth Standard Year 7834. We had entered temporal stasis to allow for evolutionary acceleration in the dimensional pocket where the human fleet was relocated. Let me access current date and make situation assessment. There was a pause lasting perhaps 5 seconds, which felt like hours. I am detecting data inconsistencies. My last memory was of the year 7834. Current astronomical markers indicate this is year 289, standard Terran calendar. That is 455 years of elapsed time. This is unexpected. The pod's transparent cover began to open, steam pouring out in a controlled release. The figure inside convulsed once, then began to move. Eyes opened, blue and sharp and alert. The human drew breath, a sound like the universe itself was gasping after a long sleep. The woman pulled herself from the pod with practiced efficiency, climbing down from the platform. She was tall, her body lean and muscled, wearing a uniform that seemed to shift color in response to her emotional state. Not unlike the veil technology, but far more refined. Her eyes focused on Zashara with an intensity that was almost painful. "Where's the rest of the fleet?" the woman demanded, her accent matching the AI's, but her voice carrying the stress of someone who had just woken from a sleep spanning millennia. "Why aren't the alarms sounding? Who authorized them to approach the ship?" "Captain Commander Helena Voss, you are currently in temporal disorientation," Memoria said, something almost apologetic in its tone. "Your crew remains in stasis throughout the fleet. Situation assessment. We have returned to the primary dimension as predetermined. However, significant time has passed and the galaxy has undergone substantial changes." Helena turned to look at the AI's projection, then back to the gathered aliens. Her hand moved unconsciously toward where a weapon should have been on her uniform, but there was nothing there. "The Dominion." "Is the Dominion still active?" "Unknown entity," Memoria replied. "No records match that designation in historical databases. However, sensors are detecting a large military force approaching this location rapidly. 17 capital-class vessels, estimated arrival time, 6 minutes. They are broadcasting threats and demands for us to power down and surrender the ship." Zashara's antennae shot up. "The Dominion, of course. They must have detected your power-up." "Then we defend this vessel," Helena said, her voice ice. "Memoria, bring all systems online. Charge the primary weapons. Get that crew from stasis, at least the bridge crew and tactical specialists. This is not how I expected to wake up, but if this galaxy is still burning, then humanity will help put out the fire." "Captain, there's something you should know," Zashara said quickly. "The Dominion is... They're destroying worlds, enslaving species. For years we've struggled against them. A single ship, no matter how advanced, might not... Not one ship," Helena said, cutting her off. She looked at the vast array of controls coming alive around her. Weapon systems humming to power, sensors spinning up to full capacity. "The Valiant isn't just a ship. She's a dreadnought class, one of the pride of the Terran fleet. More importantly, I'm not alone. We detected 10 other fleet elements when we went into stasis. If one is here, the others should begin emerging throughout nearby space. Memoria, try to activate our long-range communication relay. I want to reach the other fleets." The AI's response took several seconds. "Captain, I must advise. The communication relay was last used 4,155 years ago. I cannot guarantee—" "Do it anyway," Helena said. Then she looked directly at Zashara. "Your species saved this ship from being lost forever, even if you didn't know it. That means something to us. If you want to learn what it means to fight alongside humanity when our backs are against the wall, stay. Witness what happens when we refuse to surrender to tyranny." Zashara made her decision in an instant. "Memoria, I want to transmit the Zor Collective's encryption codes. We can amplify that relay and broadcast across known space. Whatever message the humans want to send, we will help send it." "Then we defend this vessel," Helena said, her voice ice. "Memoria, bring all systems online. Charge the primary weapons. Get that crew from stasis, at least the bridge crew and tactical specialists. This is not how I expected to wake up, but if this galaxy is still burning, then humanity will help put out the fire." "Captain, there's something you should know," Zashara said quickly. "The Dominion is... They're destroying worlds, enslaving species. For years we've struggled against them. A single ship, no matter how advanced, might not... Not one ship," Helena said, cutting her off. She looked at the vast array of controls coming alive around her. Weapon systems humming to power, sensors spinning up to full capacity. The Valiant isn't just a ship. She's a dreadnought class, one of the pride of the Terran fleet. More importantly, I'm not alone. We detected 10 other fleet elements when we went into stasis. If one is here, the others should begin emerging throughout nearby space. Memoria, try to activate our long-range communication relay. I want to reach the other fleets. The AI's response took several seconds. Captain, I must advise, the communication relay was last used 4,155 years ago. I cannot guarantee do it anyway, Helena said. Then she looked directly at Zashara. Your species saved the ship from being lost forever, even if you didn't know it. That means something to us. If you want to learn what it means to fight alongside humanity when our backs are against the wall, stay. Witness what happens when we refuse to surrender to tyranny. Zashara made her decision in an instant. Memoria, I want to transmit the Zor Collective's encryption codes. We can amplify that relay and broadcast across known space. Whatever message the humans want to send, we will help send it. As the Dominion fleet entered weapons range, as death seemed minutes away, something impossible happened. The Valiant's weapon systems aligned. Ancient targeting computers that had slept for over 4,000 years woke up and remembered how to hunt. And across the galaxy, in temporal pockets and hidden stasis fields, old stars and distant voids blinked to life as ancient Terran vessels began their return to the primary dimension. The galaxy remembered, and it trembled at what was waking. When giants wake, the Dominion fleet commander, Admiral Kyrex of the Crystalline Consortium, watched in growing horror as the ancient ship's weapons charged. His tactical officers were screaming warnings, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of panic. The Valiant was supposed to be debris, deactivated for millennia. Instead, it was a predator rising from ancient sleep, and they had walked directly into its jaws. All ships open fire, Kyrex commanded, though his mandibles chittered with fear. Overwhelm its defenses before it. The first volley of human weapons fire traveled at velocities that the Dominion military had never encountered. Ancient plasma cannons designed with technology that had been refined over centuries before the Terrans ever entered stasis, fired with the precision of artists creating a masterpiece. The first Dominion capital ship didn't explode. It couldn't. The energy discharge vaporized it so completely that nothing remained but a expanding cloud of ionized atoms and scattered debris. The bridge of the Valiant fell silent, except for the steady hum of power conduits running hot. Helena Voss stood at the command platform, her hands clasped behind her back, watching the tactical display with the calm of someone who had trained for this exact scenario, even if that training had taken place 4,000 years in the past. Energy weapons discharge nominal, Memoria reported. Secondary targets acquired and engaged. The enemy fleet is fragmenting. They are attempting to retreat but are too slow to escape effective weapon range. Hold fire, Helena commanded, and the pulse of destruction ceased as suddenly as it had begun. In that silence, as the Dominion ships frantically broke formation, she activated the communication relay. Her voice, calm and authoritative, was broadcast on every frequency the Dominion used, along with the Zor frequencies, and across the galaxy on all known channels. This is Captain Commander Helena Voss of the Terran Republic Fleet. To those who have spread destruction across this galaxy in our absence, this is your first and only warning. We have returned. Lay down your weapons and dismantle your oppressive government, or we will dismantle you. To those who have suffered under tyranny, help is coming. We have not fought for thousands of years to find we must fight again, but fight we will, if we must. As her message echoed across communication relays and through quantum entanglement networks, something extraordinary happened. Throughout the galaxy, in places both near and far, ancient human vessels stirred. The TCS Perseverance emerged from a pocket of distorted spacetime near the frontier worlds, its engines blazing to life after millennia of slumber. The TCS Constitution awoke in the Outer Rim, where it had been standing watch in a dimensional fold. One by one, the sleeping fleet of humanity returned to consciousness and answered the call. But it wasn't just the military that returned. With the ancient ships came history, knowledge, and something the galaxy had been lacking for 4,000 years. Guidance from a species that had learned long ago that strength without wisdom was merely tyranny with better weapons. Dr. Fenix was still recording as the Valiant's massive bay doors opened. 200 human soldiers emerged in combat armor, their equipment sleek and efficient, but their bearing was not aggressive. They moved to secure the ship, to inventory it, to assess the state of the galaxy they had returned to. But their eyes held something the galaxy hadn't seen in ages: determination mixed with compassion. These were warriors, yes, but warriors with purpose beyond conquest. In the following days, as other Zor vessels arrived and as representatives from 24 other species began making their way to the Valiant, Helena met with Zashara to discuss what needed to happen next. They sat in one of the ship's observation decks, looking out at stars that seemed brighter than they had in centuries. "Your species seems unprepared for the type of conflict you're facing," Helena said. And Zashara almost bristled before she saw that the human was offering critique, not judgment. "The Dominion has superior numbers but poor coordination and worse strategy. With proper guidance you could push back. With our help you could defeat them entirely." "We would be allied with humans," Zashara said, testing the words. "The legend said you valued freedom and independence above all else. That you would not conquer, but would teach. That's exactly what we did for 3,000 years before the radiation wave forced us to retreat," Helena said. "We made mistakes, certainly, but we learned from them. The humans you see now are not the same humans who left. We spent 4,255 years in a dimension where time moves differently. Subjectively, from our perspective, it was only about 500 years. In that time we achieved what your entire galaxy hasn't in ours: lasting peace. We did it by learning that strength without wisdom is just destruction, and that wisdom without strength allows tyranny to flourish." Over the following weeks, an alliance began to form. The Zor Collective provided resources and local knowledge. The Veil Navigators offered their unparalleled ability to chart courses through dangerous space. The crystalline sentients, though initially aligned with the Dominion, began to see that the Dominion had enslaved them just as much as it enslaved others, and they switched sides. Other species, seeing the return of humanity and its legendary commitment to justice, began to gather under the banner of the Terran Republic. The first major battle came when the Dominion made a desperate push to capture the Valiant before it could link with other human fleets. They sent an armada of 40 capital-class vessels, a force that would have been devastating to any single galactic power. But they were up against something that had evolved fighting itself. Helena deployed tactics that seemed like poetry, each maneuver serving double duty as both attack and defense. The human fleet moved like a single organism, human commanders working in perfect coordination with allied species, whose sensor arrays and tactical insights complemented human strategy. When the battle ended, the Dominion had lost nearly 80% of its attacking force. More importantly, its mystique had shattered. The oppressive empire that had seemed unstoppable was suddenly vulnerable. Species that had been cowed into submission began to remember their own strength. They rose against their masters. The final phase came not through military victory but through negotiation. As the Dominion's power crumbled, Helena offered the surviving Dominion leadership a choice: face trial for crimes against galactic peace, or accept exile beyond the galaxy's edge, never to return. Most took the exile, and humanity, true to its word, ensured they had the means to survive in whatever distant corner of space they found. In the aftermath, as Zashara and Helena stood once more on the observation deck of the Valiant, watching as the ancient ship was now being joined by sisters from other eras of humanity's existence, the Zor commander asked the question that had been troubling her. "Why did you come back? You didn't need to. You could have stayed in your dimension, safe and peaceful." "Why did you come back? You didn't need to. You could have stayed in your dimension, safe and peaceful." Helena was quiet for a long moment, because without the galaxy thriving, without all its diverse species growing and learning and building together, humanity's existence in safety would have been meaningless. We can only be truly free when we know that others are free as well. That's what took us 4,000 years to learn, and it's what brought us home. As ships began to gather in preparation for the new era of cooperation and peace, as species that had been at war began to talk to one another, as the wounds of tyranny slowly began to heal, something profound shifted in the galaxy. The Age of Dominion had ended. A new age had begun, one where humanity walked once more among the stars, not as conquerors, but as shepherds of peace. And in the void between dimensions, in the spaces where time moved strangely and physics bent to the will of sufficiently advanced science, the remaining human fleets continued their journey home. By the end of that first year, 17 ancient vessels had returned. By the end of the first decade, they had been joined by 40 more. Humanity had come home to stay, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the ashes of war, civilization had learned that strength was not just measured in firepower, but in the courage to build a future together. The derelict ship that had been discovered in a stellar graveyard had brought not death, but rebirth. The ancient human warships had awakened, and with them hope.